What's going on, guys? We are Descent into Horror Hell. I am your man, Ghoul.
I'm Skidgore. What's going on?
We are here for another episode of Half-Assed Reviews. Of course, we know we're not professionals at this, so we're going to give you a half-assed look at some cool films.
It's been a while.
It has been very, very long time since we've done actually one of these.
Yeah, right.
But, so without further ado, let's kick it to the intro, guys. Cheers.
Step this way, lovers of the loathsome, as I lead you into my cave of lurking shadows and demonic dabblings. Gather round the cauldron while I boil up a beastly brew I call. In the night's light, my thoughts launch fires in the cities. Shadows and red embrace the sun.
What's going on, horror fans? We're back. Let's get right into this.
Hell yeah.
From 1974, Deranged.
Love that movie.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, it is a great film.
Now, for the longest time, I had this on a double bill with Motel Hell, and that was like a really cool midnight releasing, I believe. Not midnight releasing, midnight...
Midnight movies.
Midnight movies. That was really cool. But this is the uncensored version, the unrated version. This is the one to really see and to enjoy, because it's got all the good gooey gore effects by an early Tom Savini and Ellen Ormsby. Very fucking awesome. It's got the scene, the infamous scene where Ezra's scraping out the eyeballs when he's skinning all his victims alive, and actually they're dead anyway, but you know, he's the whole Ed Gein thing. Now, going into this movie, it really helps if you know the story of the real case of Ed Gein, Wisconsin's finest. It's loosely based on it. There are obviously the names of the victims have been changed, and some of those things have been changed for cinematic purposes. But listening to the commentary, I learned a lot about this film that I didn't know before. This film was actually made in Canada because they wanted to film in Wisconsin, particularly Plainfield, where it all took place. But the mayor at the time said, "No way. You guys are not allowed in Wisconsin to shoot a film about Ed Gein." So they had to find another area where they would have that kind of atmosphere with the snow and the farms. So they chose Canada. So that's kind of interesting. But originally it was supposed to be filmed in Wisconsin. But anyway, Roberts Blossom, man, what an actor. Amazing portrayal is Ezra Cobb, the Ed Gein type character in the film. He really knocked it out of the park in this one. You really believe, at the same time he's doing these horrible things, but at the same time you pity him as well. He's a very pitiful person because, you know, he's obviously a mama's boy like Ed Gein was, and he has nobody in his life, and he's starting to get interested in the opposite sex, and his mother sheltered him from that his whole life. All he had was her, and then when she died, he just kind of spiraled out of control, basically, and tried a couple relationships that didn't work, and then he got the crazy idea of loving the dead, you know, and bringing them back to his shack and fixing them up. It actually started out with him digging up his mother and trying to restore her skin by taking the skin off of other dead bodies, and also living victims as well. He goes to a tavern and meets Mary, I believe her name is Ransom in the film, and he has a thing for her obviously, but takes it back and horrible things happen to her. But this film is really good. This is the version to check out for sure. It does have some comedic elements within it to kind of break up the whole tension, and I think that was the director's intention as well, because this is a very serious matter. I mean, the whole Ed Gein case haven't really been filmed before. I mean, Texas Chainsaw Massacre was loosely based off of it, And of course, Psycho, Robert Bloch got the idea when he lived in around that area of Plainfield to write Psycho. So that was sort of based off it, like Mama's Boy living next door type story. But Deranged, directed by Jeff Gillen, really brought that out. I think brought that aspect of the Ed Gein character out in Ezra Cobb, played brilliantly by Robert Blossom. And I think it's a first-round knockout film. It's great. This is the one to check out. Deranged.
This is where the worst begins. This is where we must stop. For beyond is the work of madness.
Death!
The nightmare of insane murder and lingering death. Deranged. For Mary, it was only the beginning. For Christine, it was already too late. For Dolly, the worst was yet to come. And only Mrs. Cobb knew what he would do next.
I really love you, Mary.
Sometimes you don't want to believe what you see, but sometimes it's true. The story of a trail of butchery so brutal that newspapers refuse to print its horrifying details. When the horror becomes unbearable, it is too late to scream.
So I'm going to get into my pick here. I did from 2019, I think it came out, Hanukkah. This is a Jewish horror film. This movie was not what I expected, to be honest. The movie itself stars, well, I shouldn't even say it stars Sid Haig. He plays a really short role in the beginning of this movie where he basically is trying to crucify his child on the kitchen table. And it's done really well because it's kind of a throwback to like the 80s, 70s, 80s element. The cops bust in before he can do it, and then it kind of fast forwards to present time. And I mean, it does have, I mean, I'm not going to say Sid Haig's in there for like 3 seconds, like we see a lot of cameos nowadays, but there's this girl in a bathtub and she's like confined and naked, and I don't really understand where that came from. I'd have to probably watch it again to understand where that came from. So in the present time, there's this rabbi killer. And it kind of switches between scenes of these teeny bopper type things, kind of like Scream, where you got these kind of like new age kids, and they are trying to get to this party, and they run into each other. They don't know each other, but then they end up going to the same party for this Jewish kid, and it does have some subtle comedy in it. This kid's trying to throw this big party at it because his parents are gone, and all these guys show up, and you got these like Russian guys that show up, and they're like, "Oh, so a sausage party!" Like, because there's no chicks that show up. But one by one, these kids start getting picked off by this Judaism killer, and they have to try to solve the mystery. So they get the help of this rabbi, and he kind of tells them the story, and I'm not going to give it away, but they have to try to find out why this killer is doing what he's doing. Again, it's it's an interesting film because there's a lot of cool elements to it. I did like the movie overall, but it does have that new age slasher type film idea to it. You just got this rabbi who's wearing the hat, and he's got this big robe on, and he's always in the shadows. You know, it's kind of like the Ripper with Klaus Kinski. Like, you never really see the guy, but he's there. And it's kind of one of those movies, like I said, Sid Haig, I think at this time, he was kind of, rest in peace, he was on his way out. It was kind of the same thing like 3 from Hell. You just see him for like 10-15 minutes total of the show. And Dick Miller is also in this as well.
Rest in peace, both.
Both of them. But it's kind of cool because there is a scene where it shows like this rabbi killer. He's holding this girl hostage, in a sense, in kind of this weird room. And the lighting's really cool. A lot of these deep reds. Like, it's kind of very grim and prosper, but he doesn't say anything. You know, she's tormented and whatever. And a lot of these kind of secrets come out, and, you know, watch it for yourselves. Definitely check out Hanukkah. It's a cool first Jewish film I've ever seen, horror-wise. Yeah. But it is Sid Haig's last film. Dick Miller's last film, I cannot say that for sure, but I know he was kind of at the end as well. So definitely check out Hanukkah from 2019-2020.
And definitely check out from 1974, Deranged. Those are half-assed reviews from hell. We shall return at some point. Keep watching, guys.
Cheers, let's kick into the trailer.
Have you ever heard the name Judah Lazarus? He was also known as the Hanukkah Killer. He was a psychopath. He believed that God spoke to him and gave him 53 additional commandments to follow. His signature mark was called the Scar of David. Do you know what Judah Lazarus was doing moments before the police shot and killed him? He was in the middle of ritually sacrificing his only son, 8-year-old Obadiah. I believe that your friends are dead.
Okay.